And thank you for being here. Our number 844-236-6010. If you have questions, comments, success stories you'd like to share, if you just want to contribute to the conversation, we'll be talking to Ryan Alexander at the bottom of the hour, author of the book Fake Diseases. We'll talk about the illusion of diagnosis, the illusion of the nominalization of disease, the nominalization of biochemical breakdowns that we call dis-ease. Diseases are words. The body breaks down generically, and when we name our specific breakdown, or we name the specific way the body breaks down, we lose our control and we lose our power. And that's what Fake Diseases is all about. We'll talk to Ryan Alexander at the bottom of the hour. We'll get your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase Youngevity products, head to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can also click on the Join the Team link if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team. If you're an entrepreneur, or if you like the entrepreneur lifestyle, if you want to be part of the billion-dollar nutritional supplement business, if you just want to get your products at the wholesale price, sign up to join the Brightside Ben team by clicking on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. You can also call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470 for more information. All right, our number today, 844-236-6010, and we will take calls in our second segment and talk to Ryan Alexander about his book, Fake Diseases, at the bottom of the hour. We left off our last Brightside episode talking about pigmentation, the two types of pigment. Melasma versus lipofuscin. Lipofuscin is brownish. Melanin or melasma is darker. Melanin or melasma tends to appear on the surface of the skin. Lipofuscin is down below. Lipofuscin is much more difficult to get rid of. Lipofuscin requires lymphatic drainage, and there's lots of ways to improve the movement of lymphatic fluid. The lymph system is involved with fat deposition and fat transport through the body. The lymph system also transports nutrients as well as hormones, and of course the lymph system also transports toxicity. When the lymph gets clogged, toxins accumulate, and this is what lipofuscin depositions are all about. Lipofuscin deposits throughout the body, but we see it on the skin as brown spots, and it could be a source of great frustration, especially if it's being confused with melanin or melasma. There's many ways, on the other hand, to treat melasma. If you go to a doctor, you'll probably get a prescription for a topical cream that contains something called hydroquinone. Hydroquinone works pretty darn well. Hydroquinone is really effective at eliminating dark spots, but unfortunately, as with many drugs, it has toxic effects. Its effects on the skin is not really kind and gentle. Its effect on cells is not really kind and gentle. Yes, hydroquinone works, but it is cytotoxic. That is, like all drugs, it has a degree of poison toxicity. It's like a poison to cells. And all drugs have a certain degree of toxicity, but the quinones in general, and hydroquinone specifically, can be very toxic. Quinones are very, very electrically active. They're oxidizing agents. They make things rust. They steal electrons. In chemistry, we say they're electrophiles. That is, they love electrons. They love to steal electrons. And this electrophilic nature is used in cells. It's actually part of our natural biochemistry. You've heard of coenzyme Q10, no doubt. Coenzyme Q10 is a nickname for a chemical or a molecule called ubiquinone. It's a quinone. And the fact that quinones like to steal or like to rob or like to take electrons from other atoms is actually utilized in the mitochondria, in the cells. The electron transport chain, you probably heard that term, which, by the way, is the most stupendously, amazingly, tightly regulated, choreographed nano process that occurs anywhere in nature, in my opinion. Probably the most amazing nano process. It involves the movement, the bouncing around of electrons, we'll just say, I'm always scared to say the word electrons because it sounds so intimidating. Just think pieces of electricity. The electron transport chain involves pieces of electricity bouncing around. And by these pieces of electricity bouncing around, eventually energy is produced. And this is how cells get energy. That's called the electron transport chain, and it's basically just the bouncing around of little pieces of electrons. Well, this bouncing around requires things to kind of rip electronic energy off atoms, and ubiquinone or coenzyme Q10 is one of the main thieves of these electrons. It facilitates the movement of these little pieces of electricity jumping around. Well, hydroquinone does the same thing, but it does it way more intensely than ubiquinone, coenzyme Q10. Way more intensely. So intense that you can't eat it. Coenzyme Q10 you can get as a supplement. You can eat it. You wouldn't want to eat hydroquinone. It's toxic, very toxic. But you can apply it topically to the skin. If you ate the same amount of hydroquinone that you put on your skin when you want to lighten your skin, you probably end up pretty darn sick, maybe even dead. The very mechanism of action of hydroquinone depends on this electrophilicity, this electron-stealing effect that it has, really on its cell poisoning. Hydroquinone works by poisoning the cells that make melanin. That is, the melanocytes. Melanocyte means cell that makes melanin, and hydroquinone works by poisoning the cells that makes the melanocyte, or makes the melanin. If you use hydroquinone as directed for a short period of time, for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you're not supposed to use it for more than 6 weeks. If you use it for just a short period of time, it can effectively slow down the production of melanin. Not in a kind and gentle way, in a toxic way, but it's not deadly toxic, and you can kind of keep your melasma and your pigmentation under control. On the other hand, because of its cytotoxicity, because it's so darn toxic, even when applied topically, you can only use it for 6 weeks or so. And you can also only get prescription creams at a 4% concentration. You can get it over the counter at a 2% concentration. At these low concentrations, relatively low concentrations, and in short periods of time, it can be pretty effective. Unfortunately, most people use it for a longer period of time. And I remember in my compounding pharmacy, I was making 10% hydroquinone, even 20% hydroquinone solutions. I used to wear a mask, and I used to wear gloves. And I put it under the hood because I didn't want to breathe this stuff because it's highly toxic and highly carcinogenic. Only the medical model could think that using a substance that's that poisonous and and that is that toxic can be somehow beneficial to have health benefits. And it is effective. There's no doubt about it. Hydroquinone is effective. But if you use it for too long, it can be toxic, and it can actually kill permanently melanocytes. It can actually permanently kill the cells that make melanin and cause permanent whitening of the skin. No more melanocytes. We're going to talk about a disease called vitiligo here in a couple of days, maybe a week or so. Vitiligo is a disease where melanocytes get killed off by the immune system. Well, you could do it with a prescription drug, with hydroquinone. And it's rumored that Michael Jackson did this. It's rumored, I don't know this officially, but the rumor is that Michael Jackson got a pharmacist to make super high-powered hydroquinone to lighten his skin. And, of course, as most of you guys know probably, that's exactly what happened. He lightened his skin, except permanently. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. You're listening to The Bright Side. Ryan Alexander and his book, Fake Diseases. At the bottom of the hour, we'll get your calls next segment. Okay, we are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Ryan Alexander will be with us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about his book, Fake Diseases. As he says in the first chapter, I think the word disease is misleading. And it is misleading. Diseases are generic, folks. We name our diseases. We create these taxonomical categories of various diseases, and we have specialists to treat these various diseases, but nobody ever gets better because the diseases are generic. The diseases are all the end result. All the diseases are all the end result of the same generic mechanisms: protection, inflammation, toxicity, malnourishment. It doesn't really matter where your disease shows up. It matters that your body is not functioning the way it should. And ultimately, it all boils down to energy and the movement of energy. Energy is not distributed correctly. Secondary to or following inflammation, following disturbances that are due to toxicity and malnourishment, also lack of oxygen. And then a disease shows up. And whether it shows up in the nerves and you call it multiple sclerosis, or the brain and you call it Parkinson's disease, or the skin and you call it dermatitis or eczema or psoriasis, it doesn't matter. It's the same things underneath, the same mechanisms underneath all of these various seemingly disparate manifestations of breakdown. We'll talk to Ryan Alexander at the bottom of the hour, his book Fake Diseases, and we'll get your calls this segment. 844-236-6010. Hang tight if you're on hold. I want to read this one article, which I thought was extremely interesting. This is in the Townsend Letter. If you guys haven't seen the Townsend Letter, it's an awesome magazine. It comes out every month. It's got really great health information in it. from an alternative health perspective, but in a real rigorous peer-reviewed type style. This is an article from Davis W. Lamson, ND, MS, naturopath, I'm not sure, Masters of Science, I think MS is. ND is a naturopath. He practices at the Tahoma Clinic, where Dr. Jeffrey Bland, I believe, practices, and Dr. Jonathan Wright. His specialty is autoimmunity. The article is about Helicobacter pylori, also known as H. pylori, and COVID-19 and severe COVID-19, the possible connection. This is an article that assesses the connection, the link between H. pylori infections and severe COVID-19 infection. According to Davis Lamson, Dr. Lamson, a co-infection with COVID-19 and H. pylori can increase lethality. And one of the things that we're doing wrong with this entire viral infection that's been scandalizing the world, so-called pandemic, is we're not checking for reasons why people are severely affected. We know that some people get severely affected and other people don't. Obviously, there's something going on in biochemistry. Obviously, there's something going wrong in our individual biochemistries that makes us more or less susceptible to infection. Most people don't have a problem. Some people do have a problem. Some people have a severe problem. Very few people have a super severe problem and will die. Could it be that there are comorbidities, that there are confounding variables, that there are other reasons? And shouldn't we be checking for H. pylori? Shouldn't we be checking for vitamin D and vitamin C levels? Shouldn't we be checking for leaky gut syndrome? Shouldn't we be checking for other reasons why people get sick? Instead of running to Walgreens and lining up around the block to get stuck with some toxic or potentially toxic agent, genetically modifying agent. It is the craziest, and it's so crazy, and it's so anti-science that there has to be some kind, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, there has to be some kind of nefarious reason behind all of this. Hopefully don't get censored for my point of view here. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. Let's say good morning to Dorian in Virginia. What's up, Dorian? How you feeling these days?
I'm feeling really good. I was just considering topical treatment, maybe to handle blood sugar.
Topical treatment? Wait, Dorian.
Yeah.
Topical treatment?
I know it's strange.
Putting something on your skin to deal with your blood sugar?
Yeah.
Why don't you just change the way you eat?
Well, that I have done also, but I still have some irregularities with blood sugar, and I was wondering if topical strategies can work at all.
No. How are you going to get into your blood topically unless you inject something? Blood sugar is, by just definition, blood sugar. It's just the sugar in your blood, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to? How do you intend to get into the blood through the skin? And why wouldn't you just go to the main source of the elevated blood sugar, which is food, and also cortisol? That's another very important point. Cortisol, stress hormone, initially has a hyperglycemic effect. Initially, it will raise your blood sugar. Over time, it will drop your blood sugar, but initially it will raise your blood sugar. And then another thing that you may find interesting, and this might have something to do with your blood sugar, and a lot of people are under the illusion that protein is somehow not going to affect their sugar, and that's not true. You know, the paleo folks, the people who are on the paleo, who support the paleo diet, believe that if you eat a lot of protein, that can have a beneficial effect on your blood sugar. And actually, protein is very conveniently and very fastly, very easily turned into sugar. So if you're eating a lot of protein and you think, a lot of folks will say, well, I'm going to go low carb, but they eat a lot of hamburgers and they eat a lot of meat, or they eat a lot of high protein foods, and they don't realize that the protein can actually get turned into sugar. So the only two reasons why blood sugar goes up are, number one, because of what you're eating, and number two, because of cortisol, because of stress hormone. Those are the only two reasons. So I'm not sure why you would want something topical. Don't you think, just control the way you eat, and then also relax, deal with cortisol. Those are the two best strategies. What were you thinking topically?
I was thinking maybe some concoction, maybe with apple cider, maybe with some fat, and maybe some chromium or vanadium. Mix all.
Why don't you take them orally? Why don't you take them orally?
Well, I considered that as well, but I said maybe topical application might work. I don't know. I should ask you, I said.
No, I don't think so. It's very difficult to get minerals nutritional minerals into your body through your skin. You can get electrolytes into the body through the skin, or actually into the skin through the skin, into the lower levels of the skin. It's very difficult to get these things into the bloodstream. Transdermal penetration into the blood is an art form. It's a science. I have several huge textbooks about what's called percutaneous administration of drugs, and it's really not that simple to do. It's very, very complex, and you got to have the right molecule to do it. You're not going to be able to do it with chromium vanadium, but you sure can take chromium vanadium. Of course, that's the sweeties. Also the B complex, thiamine, niacin, also magnesium, also arginine. There's so many great supplements that you can take to stabilize your blood sugar. In fact, almost all nutritional supplements are going to have a beneficial effect on blood sugar, even if they don't directly affect the blood sugar chemistry. In the long run, through a secondary process, all nutritional supplements will have a beneficial effect on blood sugar.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Hope
so
that
much.
helps.
Yeah.
And the best thing you could do, of course, is the ketogenic diet and control the way you eat. Have you gone ketogenic yet?
I have done some of that, but I was also guilty of doing what you just spoke about, the protein, the elevated protein levels, and that was affecting the sugar big time.
Yeah, were you eating lots of meat and high-protein foods?
I was.
Yeah, that's a kind of hidden source of elevated blood sugar, hidden cause of elevated blood sugar that a lot of folks don't recognize. Thanks for your call, Dorian. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And I hope we helped you out. Have a great day, buddy. All right, Ryan Alexander will be with us in our next segment. We're going to talk about fake diseases. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. Back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, and 24/7 on the archive page at brightsideben.com. We've got a search engine up, as well as the Youngevity products and a Join the Team link that you can click on if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team and start a Youngevity business, or even if you just want to get your products at the wholesale price, click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com. Also, pharmacistben.com and criticalhealthnews.com. We've got blog posts, news stories, and videos, and lots of good health information at criticalhealthnews.com. Just posted, myself and my friend Jonty just posted a video a couple days ago on criticalhealthnews.com, and you can also check out my blog, pharmacistben.com, for all the Youngevity products, and if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products, all available at truthtreatments.com, formulated by myself and my compounding pharmacy for helping folks deal with various skin health issues. As it turns out, when you heal the skin, you beautify the skin, and that is the missing link in skin beauty and in cosmetics. Healing equals beauty. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers. Nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want. Just 100% active and functional ingredients. Truth Treatments work, and that's why we have 1,700, going on 1,800 4- and 5-star reviews, which you can check out at Truth Reviewed with a D, truthreviewed.com. And if you want to purchase our Truth Skin Health products, go to Truth Treatments with an S, truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. All right, I am looking forward to speaking to our guest today. Ryan Alexander is a friend of mine. I've known him for probably going on 6 or 7 years now. And he's also the author of a book called Fake Diseases, about why diseases are fake, which is something we've been talking about forever on this program, how your diagnosis doesn't matter. Diseases are just the name they all have. Underneath all chronic degenerative diseases, you have the same basic, fundamental biochemical breakdowns. And when we learn to address those biochemical breakdowns, it won't matter what we call our disease or where our disease shows up. Please welcome to the Bright Side my friend Ryan Alexander. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ben, and for the kind introduction. You almost summed the whole thing up better in a sentence. But I think that's largely because a lot of it comes straight from you in the first place.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate that, and thank you for noting me. I appreciate that. So, what made you motivate to write the book?
Well, we've been doing the Instagram pretty heavy now for a couple of years, and that's after more years on foot out there doing conventions and expos and all this stuff, and traveling around with Dr. Wallach and doing events and with you and all this stuff. So you've heard the questions, basically. I mean, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of times, Dr. Wallach has answered these same basic questions. And that's no joke. On our Instagram, we have 12,000 questions saved up there. There's probably 10 times that in the inboxes. And they're all the same basic 6 or 7 questions, generally. And most of it circles around people's misunderstandings about this whole thing. That's all the same actual thing. It's not 20,000 different disease names.
Right.
It's
Isn't
one
that crazy?
major thing.
So, first of all, tell people how they can find your Instagram.
Well, our Instagram is named after Dr. Wallach, so it's Wallach's Warriors. And we post a lot of content on there. Most of it is chopped up lectures that you would have already seen, but we also do the Q&As roughly twice a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. And we're there to answer questions in the inbox, actually, too. So it's just any random health question. Yeah.
Wallach's Warriors. Are you on Facebook or any other social media, or is it just Instagram?
We are on Facebook, but we've been doing it just as long on Facebook, and we don't have the same action at all. We've got 30,000 followers on the Instagram, so we're there. We're very there. That's what we do. That's our storefront. You can come and talk to us anytime, and all of the little questions can be handled. And actually, we even have a food account, too, that you can. We have chefs and bakers there to answer questions about food and cooking. And Chef Norman literally finished Dr. Wallach's cookbook like yesterday. Like we're putting it to press like this week. So
what would Dr. Wallach has a cookbook?
To give people the information. Yep.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. All right, so what are the 6 questions?
Well, I wouldn't categorize them that quickly. Most people would say the most confusing question is when people come to us and they say, hey, can you help me treat or cure this disease name? And we think, wow, we've got to start at block 1 right here, right? Because they've been taught this noun form of disease that you wrote, right? The noun-verb distinction.
The nominalization.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not a doctor, so I can't even talk about diseases. I literally can't use the word treat or cure in reference to an actual disease. A disease
but you don't need to. You don't need to.
Well, I don't need to, but they need to understand what we're actually talking about when they come to me and say, hey, I have diabetes. Can you treat me? You know, that's how they're trained to think about it, because that's how the allopathic world does things. They call all these things nouns, as if, you catch diabetes.
You catch it. I have diabetes.
An explanation. Yeah, they say you catch it from your genes, basically, in one way or another. They can really only think in this noun terminology, and so the population does as well. Of course, there's no dramas about the alternative health world. Most of the rest of the world doesn't even know that there is actual other answers. The doctors, a lot of times, we've all heard the Dr. Wallach and the you explanation of how their explanations doesn't make sense for disease. But even worse, they make it look like nobody else understands disease either. Nobody else has any answers or explanations, whereas we very well do.
You're going to have it the rest of your life. You're going to be on this medication the rest of your life. There's no known cure. And
even if you don't show symptoms, they can't even find the legal framework to call you cured of anything. So we can't talk like that either, consequently.
So what do you do when somebody says, I have, can you cure me? Do you break it down to the basic mechanism?
Well, this is why we spend so much time on the information, right? This is why you have a radio show. This is why Dr. Wallach has been on the road all these years. This is why we have that commitment to answer all these questions, to rewire people's understanding. And basically, we expect them not to understand it, so we kind of just bring them into the process, assuming they've seen some of the information that kind of suggests that doctors probably aren't going to help you if you have a degenerative problem. What you have probably is a degenerative problem. They might have told you it's genetic or, some unknown explanation like an autoimmune disease. And we're just going to break it down and say you probably have a food problem and a nutrient deficiency problem. But again, since we're not licensed practitioners, I can't diagnose anything. So our step 1 is to hand them a list of questions, just like you would get when you walked into a dentist office. And so we don't need to do that much explanation when we just get their information, just like if you were sitting down with someone, you could see in 10 seconds. You could see it, I could see it, Dr. Wallach can see it, he's trained me to see it. You can see their health problems just by staring at them. Mm-hmm. Most of the time we can't look at them, so we give them this list of questions. Their age, their height, their weight, that gives me a basic idea. I ask them if they have any diagnosis. That makes it a lot easier for me. I ask them if they're on any drugs. I need to know that. Ask if they're on any supplements. Very basic questions. If you had any organs removed, by the time they've given me this, I've got the full picture, at least to start. Most people, as you know, in this, 90% of people are something that come and just change a few of their food habits that we've identified are bad, and maybe add a couple of supplements. Usually they don't even add the whole Dr. Wallach suggestion. They add a few of them, and 90% of those people feel better anyways. So most of what we got to do is just aim people in towards getting started.
Right,
and
feeling better.
To get started, of course. So our basic So when it comes down to it, how do I answer them? I really can't directly answer them. If they ask, can you cure this disease? I have to say, look, I can't legally speak like that, but maybe we can help you figure out what's going on. Here's the questions. If they answer the questions, we don't need to at any point go in and say, take this for your arthritis.
Right,
you never have to say that. You got to clean up the diet.
Yeah, and everybody's going to benefit from no matter what. Even if they don't have a diagnosis, even if they're fine, they're going to benefit from the things you're telling them, the basics, right? Clean up your diet.
Like Dr. Wallach, even if they take 10% of it, they're going to benefit.
Exactly. And by benefit, we mean feeling better. And that's the most important benefit there is, right? All right, Ryan, when we come back, I want to talk...
legally defined.
Exactly, but we know it when we have it. I want to talk about the biggie, cancer, when we come back from our break, Ryan, okay? Okay, we are back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Ryan Alexander. His book is Fake Diseases. And Ryan, the biggie, you got a chapter on it, cancer. Tell us about cancer. What do you tell people when they're dealing with this horrible scourge?
Well, this is another one of those common questions, one of those few questions that it comes in many forms. What causes this? And when it comes to cancer or autoimmune, anything above a very simple explanation like a bone and joint problem, even then, is going to have more than one thing. There's no one thing that causes cancer. There's no one thing that cures it. So these words can immediately just be thrown away. So everybody running for a cure, they're running for the wrong thing. This is a process involving digestion, food, and likely that's already caused a blood sugar problem and a circulation problem, and it's a guarantee that there's nutrient deficiencies involved. There was already nutrient deficiencies in the overall food environment that we have. That's the Dr. Wallach case. We've got a huge presentation for that. But once you're sick, you know you have a nutrient deficiency because your body requires more nutrients to get over that sickness, right? So it's just the symptoms themselves show you that you have multiple deficiencies. We're going to assume that that's across the board. We're going to assume that there's critical mineral deficiencies, particularly in those ones that we call antioxidants, which are known to have a large effect in cancer. And some cancer claims have been formally won by the FDA about, especially selenium, right? Selenium has many cofactors. And of course, we would just talk about the 90 essential nutrients because it's all a web. So it is tricky when people come and say, what causes this? And this is sort of why I wrote the book, is because you should understand the process of disease, and then you won't need to ask, what causes leukemia? What causes breast cancer? What causes liver cancer?
Right.
Liver cancer actually has two things. There's a bread mold that can contribute to it as well. But very generally, it's going to be the same explanation just showing up somewhere in the body. Like you said in the introduction, can't always tell exactly how the body's going to fail, but we can assume it's the same basic pillars.
Underneath.
Usually bad food and too much of it, causing blood sugar problems, causing circulation problems, coupled, the other side of the coin, with nutrient deficiencies across the board.
What's the deal? Your last chapter is what is disease really? What's the deal with disease? What is it?
Well, I think it's a misnomer, and I think you said it best when you say it's an idea. It's like it's a meme. You know, it doesn't even exist. It's a way for us to get together and talk about something in a way that we agree upon. We're trying to agree on what something actually is. And that's sort of the biggest problem with calling a lot of these things diseases, because it's taking us far and away from the basic problems of the wrong foods, too much food, and nutrient deficiencies, coupled with other things, environmental stresses and radiation and traffic and all the regular kind of stresses on our life, just compounded with our basic nutritional foundation.
How about emotions, like emotional, mental issues, psychological issues?
Well, this is another thing that you've said many times, but everybody in the field, I think, understands once you've been there for a while, the physical disease is always attached to mental disease. There's always a mental component to it. It could be an outright disease of attitude itself that is stopping someone from taking the correct actions and taking responsibility for their health and stuff. But it could also be literally the pain from the disease itself causing a mental affliction. This is the Buddhist idea of the second arrow and the second thorn, which I know you're familiar with. The first arrow is you getting the problem, the headache, the flu, the broken knee, and the second arrow is you stressing about missing work and falling behind on your promises to other people and all the stress where you should be at home resting because something has happened and your body needs to heal.
What's your take on the vaccine, or on vaccines in general?
Well, I'm just blanketly against them. I try not to speak that much against about it at all, actually, because our accounts get punished now. When you talk,
have you been censored? Have you been censored yet?
Well, you can see the fluctuation when they call it shadow bans. When your account gets hit with one of these censorship things, is suddenly 10% of your people are now seen. Say 1,000 people saw your story. Usually, it can drop right down to 100 or 70. Like, what the heck happened? But you can see that it's been flagged because the government puts vaccine links on it if you use the word vaccine or everything. So people change the word and they're trying to disguise it, but still, I try and stay away from it.
You have to come up with another word. Do you think the algorithms are looking for the word? Because I know we've been censored a few times. I got to come up with another word.
They're absolutely after the word vaccine and anything to do with COVID. Any of the words that have been assigned to it. If you use the word pandemic or anything, it's flagged at least because it'll have that COVID link on it or the vaccine link on it. So it's very troubling. In my world, we're not selling anything that has to do with vaccines, and vaccines are just going to be another thing getting in the way, right? I love the book Dissolving Illusions by Suzanne Humphreys to kind of make the case that it's very unlikely that vaccines had anything to do with the decline in these diseases that they're claiming, that these were already on the decline long before vaccines. And combine this with what we're saying, that basic health and hygiene is sort of what we want to aim for, no matter what, in any condition, in any circumstance. And that's notwithstanding any questionable information about the virus itself. I wouldn't take a flu vaccine. I don't know about you. I don't get a flu shot. So,
and you don't have the flu, and you haven't gotten the. When was the last time you got the flu?
I got sick on the road a couple of years ago, but it wasn't quite a flu. But it was definitely a virus type of experience. But it was from me stressing out my body. I wrote about that in the book. But a standard old flu, no, we don't really get sick around here. If you get a sniffle or something, we usually know it's from us doing something, staying up a few nights or whatever, being on the road.
Stress on your body.
Too much coffee, exactly. Yeah. Depleting our body of nutrients, not replenishing enough.
All right, so I met you through Youngevity, and one of the coolest things about you is you have a great Youngevity business. You figured out a way to make money, to support yourself, and to help people at the same time. Tell folks out there who are either thinking about starting a Youngevity business or who have one and who haven't been successful, what's your secret? I mean, you have a really, really healthy business. How do you do it?
Well, that's the next book, let me tell you, because this is actually, I think, just as important as health itself. Financial health can ruin your life if you're not in good financial health, basically. And I started off this business in poor health and poor financial health. I was poor and in pain. Now, the pain was fixed very quickly from Dr. Wallach's products, because if you do it right, usually, boom, it's done. Under a week, all my pains were gone. We didn't mention that, by the way. I was born in pain. I spent 25 years in pain. Dr. Wallach's products fixed me extremely quickly. But it didn't fix my financial health right away, because this is not the easiest business in the world. It is up and down. And what I would say to people, anybody considering this, is I hope nobody is seeing it as a get-rich-quick scheme. What this is a way to introduce people to a lifestyle of being healthy, and it is very fairly compensated. It doesn't mean that you're going to make a whole ton of money right away, because fairly compensated doesn't mean get rich. These products are not the most expensive in the world, even though they're not the cheapest. The commissions are not the most that you can make anywhere, even though they're not the lowest. But as this accumulates, you can actually make a lot of money. I don't have a job with this, but I do have interest in life. But I realize that if you actually want to help people with this, there's so much demand for it that it will take full-time. It will require full-time, and it will actually pay you for it. We've done it one way on Instagram, but go ahead.
What's step number one?
Step number one is sign up and do it yourself. Be the product of the product. I think that's the hardest for a lot of people, right? And nothing else should change, really. Some people go around and they come back and they say, hey, I've been having a really hard time convincing my friends of doing this. And I assume that they're doing things differently than they normally would. I assume that they wouldn't normally pitch a movie the way that they tried to pitch this, And also, what we are selling, the products, have a ton of information to understand behind it. So most of our job is giving out the information. Now, once you've been doing this a few years, everybody you know is going to know that you take products and that you don't get sick and all that, and that you're looking fantastic. You'll also get familiar with the answers after helping a lot of people and gain confidence and everything. Basically, what I'm saying is just don't sign up expecting to even make any money in the first year. And that doesn't mean zero. It means you won't notice it, because it's a side thing until it becomes something real. And I'm not the only one in this business who went from nothing, literally nothing, to something. There's plenty of people in our company that were facing foreclosure, and they completely changed it. And what I love about this is that, by the way, Ben, I started selling these products before I even knew what network marketing was, before I even knew what Youngevity was. We went to some old man basement and bought it, and I didn't know where it came from, and I didn't really ask questions, right? So I was already trying to sell it to people because I already knew that it would help people as I was doing tattoos, and I could see that their skin was terrible, and they're all complaining about things that I suddenly knew had these answers. Most people that start this business already have these thoughts. They're already thinking, hey, man, it's like I know everything and I want to help people, but I don't know how to do it. So what to do is start to take this process seriously. Again, don't go out in 1 week and expect to convince everybody. Start to give people the information and expect that to take a while. Ben, I've gone long on this because it's actually hard. It's harder to talk about sales than it is about health. It's harder to learn how to sell than it is to be healthy.